Hi friends, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be the 12 Friends 12 Books challenge, in which I asked 12 of my friends to recommend me a book, and my goal is to read them within 2023. So throughout the year, if you wish to keep updated with my progress on this challenge, I will continuously update this template on my Instagram story. There's a 2023 highlight, and all of my 2023 challenge templates are under that one. So this one will be updated as I read the books that you're about to hear. With this challenge, the goal is to read at least one a month to complete them before the end of the year. I'm going to try and maybe get 2 in a month in some months. So that way, hopefully by the time December 31st rolls around, I will have completed all 12 books and read all 12 recommendations from my friends. So with that said, let's just get started on my friends and their recommendations. Starting off with the one and only bestie Whitney. Whitney recommended I read Kingsbane by Claire Legrand. Kingsbane is the second book in the Imperium trilogy, which follows 2 women on a separate timeline. They're like 1,000 years apart. We start with Riel, who risks everything to save her best friend, including revealing the fact that she was the Sun Queen. And in order to prove herself as the Sun Queen, she has to endure all of these trials, and if she fails these trials to prove she is the Sun Queen, she will be executed. There's a prophecy about a Sun Queen and a Blood Queen. In order for that prophecy to come true, she has to prove herself to actually be who she says she is, to fulfill this prophecy in some way. Then 1,000 years later, we meet Eliana. Even though these are taking place like at the same time in the book, but like chapter by chapter, you know, it switches between the two. And Eliana is a bounty hunter who knows the tale of Queen Riel, and she works for like some king or some royalty that's maybe not the best and not the most well thought of. And following the vanishing of her mother, she chooses to align with the rebellion of the royalty or the king in which she works for. And in doing so, it showcases to her a lot of the bad things that have been happening under the current leadership. I don't exactly remember a ton of Furyborn. This is pretty much all I remember. And I do intend to reread Furyborn and like annotate a copy before getting to Kingsbane, because there's a lot that happens in these. It's a YA/young adult. What? That's literally the same thing. It's a YA/new adult series. It's really well done. It's really intense on the fantasy, so you have to be in kind of a fantasy mindset to read these, and when I first read this book, I was not in the fantasy mindset, so I have to reread Furyborn in order to get to Kingsbane and do it justice. Next up, my friend Sonia recommended Partners in Crime by Alicia Rai. This follows Mira, who's in search of a life partner to settle down with as she gets older. She doesn't want the super lavish, adventurous lifestyle. She just kind of wants a boring life partner, so she gets on this matchmaking app. I believe matches with a guy named Naveen who fits this bill. She thinks he seems pretty boring and lives a pretty ordinary lifestyle, and that's exactly what she wanted. Then Mira's aunt passes, so they travel to, I believe, Vegas to go set all of her aunt's affairs in order, and then we endure this whirlwind thing that happens, and so much happens at the same time, and this is the complete opposite of this boring lifestyle that she thought she wanted. Obviously, this being a romance, we're gonna see Mira and Naveen get close and probably fall in love, because it's a romance book and that's what happens. This is one that I was interested in when it first came out, but like I never got around to it because it never really stuck out to me on my TBR. So I'm really grateful that Sonia recommended this for this challenge, because now I'll finally be able to take the leap and check it out and give it its best shot. Next up, Emily recommended Thank You for Listening by Julia Whelan. Ironically, this is one of the 3 books that I did not read for the Goodreads Choice Awards video. If you haven't seen my Goodreads Choice Awards video, it's one of my favorite videos I filmed, but there were 20 nominees. Thank You for Listening was one of them, and I read 17 of them, and this is one of the 3 that I didn't get to. So maybe I will think this should have won the entire thing, but it did make the top 10, so I didn't end up reading it. This follows our main character, who's an audiobook narrator. I believe her name is Siwani, is what it looks like to me. And she spends one whirlwind night in Vegas with a stranger. On her way home, she finds out that one of the most renowned romance writers is getting an audiobook for, I believe, their last book. And they have requested Siwani narrate this with Brody, who is going to be like, you know how they have like male and female narrators in the audiobooks? I believe it's like her co-narrator for this book. She doesn't subscribe to the ideas and romance that's presented in these books and has pretty much sworn off narrating these, but with an opportunity like this, she kind of can't refuse, so she decides to go through with it, and I believe we're going to see her and her co-narrator kind of fall in love through this romance book. It sounds really interesting. It's not one that I would have picked up off the shelf just because the cover isn't something that I typically like look for in a romance. I typically gravitate towards those cutesy illustrated covers. So I'm excited to give this one a shot and see what I think. Then my good friend Chanel actually recommended a book I already own, and that is Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. Since I have the physical copy of this one here, I'm just gonna read it to you. So here's that cute little graphic, fully complete with the cover that I've done for all the others. But I'm just gonna read you the synopsis from this dust jacket. Ellery Downing is waiting for something to happen. Life in isolated Amity Falls, surrounded by an impenetrable forest, has a predictable sameness. Her days are filled with tending to her family's beehives, chasing after her sisters, and dreaming of bigger things, while her twin, Samuel, is free to roam as he wishes. Early settlers fought off monstrous creatures in the woods, and whispers that the creatures still exist keep the Downings and their neighbors from venturing too far. And some townsfolk go missing on a trip to fetch supplies. A heavy unease settles over the fall. Strange activities begin to plague the town, and as the seasons change, it's clear that something is very wrong. The creatures are real, and they're offering to fulfill the residents' deepest desires, however grand, for just a small favor. These seemingly trifling demands, however, hide sinister intentions. Soon, Ellery finds herself in a race against time to stop Amity Falls and her family and the boy she loves from going up in flames. So that's what this one is about. Chanel recommended it. It was on my TBR. It's got a beautiful like inside page, and honestly the cover is great, and that's what really attracted me to it. So that's why I picked it up, and I've seen it a lot, but I don't know that like I would have gone off of it based on the synopsis, but I did off the cover, and I'm going to based on Chanel's recommendation. So that's that one. Then Val recommended Dowry of Blood, which, look at this cover. Isn't it gorgeous? I can't. I'm so excited about this one. This is about the bride of Dracula, and when it turns out that Dracula is more sinister than Constanta realizes, she kind of takes refuge in their enemies or their rivals in some way, and this reveals a lot about how horrible her husband is what it sounds like. It sounds really interesting. I think this is either like a thriller or a horror, but the cover alone is just worth everything to me. So we're gonna read that one for sure. I also have not ventured much into vampire stories, so I'm excited to see what this one does, how I feel about it. Maybe this is something I'll enjoy in a story. I haven't even like experimented with it before, so I don't know if I'll like it. I don't know if I don't. I haven't sworn it off, but I also haven't ever tried. So we're gonna give it a shot. We're gonna see. That's the whole point of this challenge, is to try some things that maybe you wouldn't recommend or pick up normally. Then Bonnie recommended I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. This is a book that I picked up a while ago, and I never fully got into it. I was in kind of a weird headspace, and it wasn't anything that the book was doing wrong. I just like didn't continue reading it. So I'm interested to give this another shot this time around and see if it was maybe the book or it was me. This follows Chloe, who is on the path to become a valedictorian, and that is her goal, and her only competition is Shara Wheeler. And after a series of events, she ends up kissing Shara Wheeler, and then Shara disappears. And it turns out that Chloe is not the only one who has kissed Shara Wheeler. And all of these people who have kissed her are coming together to figure out what happened as she disappeared. I don't know if this is necessarily like a mystery book. It maybe like is like a YA contemporary mystery type thing. Not 100% certain. And I don't really remember much of reading it, so I'm excited, like I said, to give this another go this year. So thank you to Bonnie for encouraging me to pick this one back up. Then Olivia recommended Daisy Darker, and I did pick this up based on her recommendation just for this challenge. I think it sounds really interesting, and this is one that I was probably going to purchase anyways, but I was further motivated to pick it up based off of Olivia's recommendation. I picked it up at Half Price Books apparently for $14.50, so that's that. This follows Daisy, and her family are going to visit her grandmother at her grandmother's house. Her grandmother lives on this small island, and when the tide comes up on this island, they're pretty much cut off from the outside world for about 8 hours. And at this party at midnight, their grandmother turns up dead. And then an hour later, another family member dies. So they're all trying to solve the mystery of who is killing, you know, Mima and and others before the tide goes back down, and they're trying to stop things before more people die. I hate to break it to you guys, but that sticker was like impossible to get off. So that really sucks. Oh, maybe I got it. Hold on. Oh, near flawless execution. Once I got a good mojo going, I had to try the other corner and then we were good. Look at that. Nice and clean. But this was Olivia's recommendation. Obviously, Olivia really liked it, so I'm excited to give this one a shot. I love a good mystery thriller, and this one seems like it's gonna be right up my alley. I love a mystery thriller where it takes place in a secluded location over a short period of time, much like One by One by Ruth Ware, where it takes place in this little ski chalet where they're pretty much cut off from the outside world because of this whole winter storm that happens. This one takes place over a shorter period of time, but I think it's still going to be interesting, and it has the similar vibes that I really appreciated in One by One by Ruth Ware. Hopefully this one is a little bit more exciting in terms of the reveal. I guess we'll see. This will probably be one that I pick up fairly quickly, just because I'm really excited about it. Then I recruited my Instagram friends to give me some recommendations. The previous mentions are like, you know, my outside day-to-day friends that are off the internet. But then I asked some of the internet besties for some recommendations. So thank you to these guys as well for giving me some recommendations. We're gonna start with Kate from Goody Reads on Instagram. She recommended I read Jade City, which is the first book in the Greenbone saga, I believe. This is an adult fantasy, and honestly, as we saw with Small Favors, I'm not the best at giving a synopsis of fantasy books, so I'm just gonna read you the one I have. The Call family is one of 2 crime syndicates that control the island of Kekon. I'm probably pronouncing all of this wrong, I apologize. It's the only place in the world that produces rare magical jade, which grants those with the right training and heritage superhuman ability. The Greenbone clans of honorable jade-wearing warriors once protected the island from foreign invasion, but nowadays in a bustling post-world metropolis full of fast cars and foreign money, Greenbone families like the Calls are primarily involved in commerce, construction, and the everyday upkeep of the districts under their protection. When the simmering tension between the Calls and their greatest rivals erupts into open violence in the street, the outcome of this clan war will determine the fate of all Greenbones and the future of Kekon itself. This is one that I actually own a copy of. I forgot to grab it off of my bookshelf, to be honest with you. But this is one that's really intrigued me. I've seen a lot of recommendations of this whole series. I think it's a trilogy, but this was going around on the internet for a while. Everyone was in love with it, so I decided to get a copy. I actually think I got gifted a copy from Whitney, but someone gave me a copy at some point in time. I am really excited to give this a go. I love when I get recommended books that are on my like physical TBR that I just haven't picked up yet, because obviously I had enough interest to want to purchase this at some point or to put it on a wish list. It's always nice to get some physical books off your TBR. Also, I just realized you probably have seen this lipstick swatch on my hand. I got a new lipstick and lip liner, and I was making sure they went together, and then I forgot to take it off before this video. We're gonna pretend it's not there. Then my friend Raven from Book Talk with Raven over on Instagram recommended I read Song of Achilles. This is a retelling of the story of Achilles. I believe it is gay, if I remember correctly. I believe it's queer in some way. And honestly, I don't really know much of what this is about, but I know everyone pretty much loves this one. It's a like Book Talk hit, it's a BookTube hit, so y'all already probably know what it's about, and if you don't, then I'm sure someone will pitch it to you within the next week or so of you seeing this video. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. This is one that I've been meaning to read for quite some time. I believe my sister really liked this, and I've had friends for years tell me, you gotta read this one, it's so good. I don't know why I haven't picked it up yet. I own it on Kindle, I believe. So here's another one that I've just been meaning to read forever, and then a friend recommended it to me, and suddenly I'm like, yeah, okay, now it's time. Thank God a friend recommended it to me, because otherwise I'm never gonna get through my books. Then Jillian of Bookishly Vintage recommended I read Never Ever Getting Back Together by Sophie Gonzalez. This follows Maya, who was cheated on by her ex-boyfriend named Jordy. He charmed the world around her, but actually broke her heart, and she's like, why does everyone love him? He's a total jerk. And we also follow Sky, who also dated Jordy, and Jordy charmed Sky just as much as he did Maya, but then he suddenly stops returning her call. Then we see Maya and Sky both end up on a second chance romance show where Jordy is involved with a bunch of his other exes, and they're competing to win his affection. And Sky is determined to reignite the spark that they once had and end up with him, while Maya is trying to enact her revenge. And I believe, if the vibes are correct, we might see a little sapphic romance happen here. I think Sophie Gonzalez typically writes LGBTQ stories, so I'm pretty sure this is gonna be like maybe a love triangle type thing. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Then Jackie, over on Instagram as Jackie Books, recommended I read House of Earth and Blood. She actually typically reads a lot of smutty books, so when I asked her for a recommendation, she was like, I don't know what to recommend you because I typically read like spicy books and that's not your thing at all. And I was like, what about Crescent City? I kind of like egged her on to give me this recommendation because she loved this book, and I remember she was reading the second one, I think it's called House of Sky and Breath, during a readathon we were doing, and I remember her sitting there on the live and she was just reading it, and then she'd go, oh, and she was like reacting to it. And this is an adult fantasy series by the beloved Sarah J. Maas. This is one that I have been so excited about since that giant banner was like revealed at BookCon that one year. You know which one I'm talking about. If you don't, here's a picture. But this banner was up and everyone was talking about like the cover reveal, and everyone was like, why is Crescent City not the title? It's actually House of Earth and Blood, and her name is just bigger than the actual title of the book, which is smaller than the name of this. It was a whole thing. There was a lot of discourse over this cover, but I like pre-ordered this exact hardcover. I pre-ordered this and I haven't read it. How did I not read something I pre-ordered? That's the real question here. I also pre-ordered the second one because I wanted the art print that came with the pre-order. I still have not read the first one. So when Jackie was like, I don't know what to recommend you because I read spicy books, I was like, you should recommend me this so I finally get to it. This was also something I was planning on reading this year. I was maybe gonna do a reading vlog of this one, so thank you, Jackie, for letting me coerce you into giving you my own recommendation. But Jackie did love this, and she was like, absolutely, you should read that. I can't believe I didn't think about it. So we love Jackie. So everyone say thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Jackie. Then last but not least, I actually have a recommendation from someone I believe I'm mutuals with on Twitter. Their name is Shy. This was honestly the first interaction with them I had. They replied to Emily, who I mentioned previously in this video. So Emily was also seeking recommendations for her challenge, and they replied to hers and said, you should read In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lawrence, what is it? F.T. Lukens, there we go. So they were like, you should read In Deeper Waters. And they said it's a fantastical, gay Little Mermaid retelling, maybe? And I was like, that cover is delightful and it sounds interesting. I don't think I've ever read a Little Mermaid retelling. And so I was like, hey, mind if I use this recommendation for my challenge? And they were like, absolutely, go for it. So I said, thank you very much. And I took that recommendation, and now you're seeing it in this video. So thank you to this friend on Twitter. I am so excited for this recommendation that you gave Emily and me. Even though you didn't intend to give it to me, I appreciate you letting me use your recommendation. This cover is really what drew me in, and I only know about it based on what they mentioned, that it's a Little Mermaid retelling. It sounds good and it looks good just based on the cover, so we'll see. So that concludes this video. Thank you to all of the people who recommended me a book for this challenge. This is one of my favorite challenges to do every year because a lot of these aren't books I would pick up normally, and it gives me a chance to expand on my reading, or maybe pick up books that I've had on my TBR for a while that I just haven't been gravitating towards. Give me something new and different to try and expand my taste. I just love getting recommendations from the community. If you have any recommendations, feel free to leave them below. If any of y'all are doing this challenge, feel free to take any of the recommendations in the comments below. If you want a recommendation from me, I'm gonna recommend you read History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. This follows our main characters Theo and Griffin and kind of their love story. Theo actually went off to college at some point in their love story and met Jackson there. Theo and Jackson sparked up a romance, and then Theo passes away. And so Griffin is now at Theo's funeral and Jackson shows up. And this is a book about Griffin reflecting on his romance with Theo, and also coming to terms with the fact that after Theo moved away to college, he kind of started a new life and kept going on with his life while Griffin was just a part of his past. And he is dealing with the grief of that while also dealing with his OCD. It is just a fantastic story about loving someone and then losing someone, and it's not a happy book. I don't think Adam Silvera writes happy books, but if this is something that's up your alley, this is absolutely a book I'd recommend to you. If you're looking for maybe a little bit more lighthearted of a book, I recommend you read The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams. This is my favorite adult romance series. This is actually the first book, but this whole series follows a group of guys who are typical dudes. They're sports people, music people, whatever. And they start reading romance novels in order to sexually or romantically please their romantic partners or romantic interests. And who better to tell them what a woman wants from a relationship than a woman who writes books for women? So they all get together and read these cheesy mass market paperback romances to learn how to please their partners. So those are some recommendations for you. If you choose to participate in this challenge, I'd love it if you tagged me. And don't forget to use this template. Here's my completed one. And stay up to date with it on my 2023 highlight on my Instagram account. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and thanks again for my recommendations from my friends, and I'll catch you in the next one. Happy reading!